Hey Krishna. So in today's topic, I thought I will discuss on two topics. One is the analogy what Prabhupada says about this material world, and the other is about the different types of siddhis a devotee actually performs. So one of the important analogy that Prabhupada gives about this material world, it is very easy to understand about how this material world is. So this analogy Prabhupada gives that this material, he gives the example of a camel. A camel actually is actually fond of eating thorny leaves in the desert, and it has lot of taste for it. So Prabhupada compares this camel as a materialistic person and the thorny leaves as the material world. So the camel, what it does is like when it eats this thorny leaves, it actually tastes that the thorny leaves through its mouth. Actually, when it is eating it, the thorns actually get the blood out of its tongue. And when it is tasting, it is actually tasting this blood coming out of this mouth of the camel, and then it thinks that it is very, very tasty. So similarly, Prabhupada says this the materialistic person, especially, he gives an example of a businessman. The businessman actually they get involved so much passionately in this material world, actually without knowing that this material world is pulling out the blood, sucking out the blood out of them. Just like the example of a camel, a business person engages so much of time, so much of money, so much of effort he puts in. Actually, he needs a very small amount for his survival, but actually he puts so much of effort, and this material world, without him knowing, sucks a lot of blood from him. So, without actually, he actually puts a lot of effort without knowing the importance of the life, and he doesn't achieve the real purpose of the life. Instead, actually, wastes his own blood, just like the example of a the camel. So Prabhupada here says this material life is actually full of thorns, and then a devotee who is intelligent, who goes through this thorns very carefully, sees that he doesn't get stuck with any of the thorns. So similarly, when we pass through this material world, we should know that it's full of thorns, and then we should go through these thorns very carefully and very attentively. So how do we pass through these thorns carefully and attentively? Prabhupada says that the process that which he has given by chanting the japas regularly and by reading Prabhupada's books and in the association of devotees and following the regulative principles. These are actually the remedies given for us to pass through the thorns of material world. Otherwise, we'll stuck in one of the thorns and we will never know that this thorn is actually sucking out the blood from us. So that is our situation. That's why he gives this example of the camel, which actually finds taste in eating its own blood while eating the thorny leaves in the desert. So in the process, what Prabhupada has given, the process of the four regulative principles and chanting, when I was reading one in the Bhagavatam, it was saying that the mood, the attitude of the devotee, even our Subandhu Prabhu, a lot of times he has said, the attitude of the devotee is very, very important when we follow this process of sadhana. So generally in Bhagavatam, it is given, a description is given about two types of siddhis who actually attain liberation, or two types of devotees who follow two different principles. So the two types of devotees who attain siddhis are one is sadhana siddhi and one is kripa siddhi. And the moment which we belong to, the Prabhupada's movement which we belong to, is actually based on the kripa siddhi. Kripa siddhi. It's not, although we have sadhanas, we have regulative principles, most of the time we get engrossed in this, and then we become too much ritualistic without knowing what is the real purpose of it. But actually, our movement is full of actually kripa siddhi only. The devotees in our congregation or in ISKCON, if you see, they use this word a lot of time, mercy. Guru's mercy, Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy. It's only mercy, mercy. Why we use this word mercy is because our movement is actually based on the kripa siddhi. Once actually, even in Leelamrit, when you read, one of the devotee, when Prabhupada was taking class, he was explaining one of the Bhagavad Gita verses. And in that verse, actually, it was said that it requires a lot of auspicious activities to be performed if one has to take to this process of Krishna consciousness. So that devotee immediately asked Prabhupada, so does that mean that in previous birth that we have done a lot of auspicious activities, so that is why we have actually come into the association of this Krishna conscious movement? So he asks Prabhupada. So immediately Prabhupada says, no, it's not because you have done a lot of auspicious activity. It is because I have come you and actually taken up and given you this process of Krishna conscious movement. So it may feel little different when Prabhupada says this, like Prabhupada is actually quoting it directly, it is because of me. But when we read, we understand that it is actually the mercy what Prabhupada has actually given. So a lot of us are here in this moment, we should understand that it is actually because of the mercy of some devotee who approached us and actually gave this process of Krishna consciousness. Because in this material world, it's very rare that due to our punya karmas, we get associated with this kind of moment. It is only because of the mercy of the devotees we have actually attained this process of have come into association of this moment. So when I was talking about Kripa Siddhi, one of the important things that we should understand is when we are following this process, we should actually seek for mercy. Our prayers are very important. How in the mode which we are doing the sadhana process is very important, and to follow the basics is very important, not to get attached with the ritualistic process. So we should see whatever Prabhupada says, the basics we are following, chanting early in the morning, their rounds, reading especially Prabhupada's books and hearing from Prabhupada is very important. If we can follow this basic process of sadhana what Prabhupada has given, then actually Prabhupada will be pleased, Guru will be pleased. By their mercy, actually we can actually take up to this process of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it is very difficult for us actually through the process of only our sadhana. No matter how much good we may be in doing our sadhana, it is very difficult to attain the love of God through only sadhana, but only by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna and the devotees that we may be able to cross over this ocean of any signs. So one of the example that is cited in Bhagavatam is the example of Bali Maharaj. If you see Bali Maharaj was actually in the association of demons. Bali Maharaj actually in the process in the Bhagavata Katha, you can see that he had to actually neglect his own spiritual master, but still he was able to attain the salvation or liberation from this material world. So how it was possible? So Prabhupada says that Bali Maharaj, although he was in the association of the demons, and although he had to actually reject his spiritual master, he was able to attain the liberation only because of the mercy of his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj. Because he had association with Prahlad Maharaj and he had taken the instructions of the Prahlad Maharaj, he is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. He was able to get the taste of Krishna consciousness through Prahlad Maharaj. And only because of the mercy of the Prahlad Maharaj, he was able to go through that test. He was actually put into a great test. If you know, Sukracharya actually saved his life. In the previous Bhagavata story, it will be mentioned like in the Samudra Manthan, like Bali Maharaj would be actually killed by Indra Deva, and actually Bali Maharaj will be taken to Sukracharya, and again he brings him back to life. Sukracharya brings him back to life. So when Bali Maharaj had to reject the instructions of Sukracharya, it was very difficult thing that he has to decide. But he thought for a moment, and then because of the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj, he was able to actually decide the things properly, and then he was knowing that the real purpose of life is actually to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because he was knowing that the Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasya Sarvaloke Maheshwara. He knows that the Maheshwara is actually nothing but Krishna. Amadev was actually the real Maheshwara. And all the sacrifices that I am doing, the real enjoyer of that sacrifices is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is why he was able to reject even his spiritual master, and he was able to surrender to the spiritual, and he was able to surrender to the Supreme Lord. There, if you see, Prabhupada clearly mentions it was only the kripa of Prahlad Maharaj that Bali Maharaj was able to pass through. Otherwise, how in the association of demons, in the association of Sukracharya, he was able to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should cite these examples from Bhagavatam, and then we should understand how for a devotee to get the mercy of Guru. Pleasing Guru is such an important part of this process. So, with this example, I would like to end this session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.